The only other thing that I want to say, guys, for this is because it's a podcast and it's only voice, do try to be mindful of not talking over each other. I know it's hard because there's delays, and I know sometimes you can't hear when you're talking and things like that, but people talking over each other...
I never do that.
Not J-Man. Not J-Man. He never does that.
Yeah.
Grunting Pixel.
Let's do this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Grunting Pixel Podcast, more colloquially known as the Grunting Podcast. This is our first episode ever. I am GP, the Grunting Pixel, and I have two of my acquaintances with me. Why don't you introduce yourself, starting with the lady?
Hi, I'm Steph.
That was sultry.
Great.
And the man?
Hi, I'm Jared.
I thought...
when you said starting with the woman, I thought you were talking about me. I almost interrupted her. So.
I thought you were gonna say hi, I'm lady. I really didn't think you were gonna say that. And this is our inaugural podcast. This is gonna be a little off the rails and probably a little short because this was about as thrown together last minute as you could possibly have after planning it for 2 weeks. So let's just
I guess surprised if this ever airs.
Yeah, no, it probably won't. And if it does, then either we somehow manage to do decent, or we just put out completely shit content, which is totally unheard of for me. Highest bar on the internet, highbrow as fuck.
Yeah, only high quality here.
But this is I guess I should just kind of get the formalities out of the way. This is a kind of whatever the hell we want to do podcast. We're obviously very much into the gamer life, so we'll probably have a lot of game questions here, but we'll talk about anything from anything, literally food, life topics, religion, because that's so hot. No, I mean, really anything we want to talk about. It's just basically we would all sit together and have really funny conversations and really interesting conversations, and I was just like, why don't we record that? And that's pretty much what this is, except for have a little bit more structure. So, we all have topics, and we just have a huge list of topics, and we're going to go through them. It's more of a guideline than anything, but why don't we start with the first one? So, E3 happened, Jesus, God, a month ago at this point. So, a little behind on that, but Microsoft has come out and said that Xbox One will now have backwards compatibility. So, what I wanted to kind of pose here as the question is, now that Xbox One has backwards compatibility, what does this mean for remasters on the Xbox One? Will publishers decline compatibility so they can release remasters for money? And what does this mean for Sony's PlayStation Now? I don't really know who we'll start with, so I'm going to spring it on Jared. Jared, go ahead.
God. Well, first of all, it's about time.
Right.
I don't know. Is this first? I saw some of the conference where they revealed this. I was still left with some questions. Maybe it was just due to me not paying 100% attention. But is this like just going to be an update, or do you have to buy something to attach to your Xbox, or how exactly are they obtaining this backwards compatibility?
Much like our conversations, I didn't do really much research, and I probably should have. Okay. But from what I remember from the conference is that you don't have to pay any money at all. It's just they're going to be adding this backwards compatibility in with one of the updates, and basically it's up to the publishers what games can be backwards compatible. So what'll happen is the publisher will either contact Microsoft, or Microsoft will contact the publisher and say, hey, we want to make it backwards compatible, yes or no. They say yes or no, and if they say yes, it gets onto the console, and you'll basically just have a list of games that you can look at. From what it sounds like, Microsoft kind of just wants to make every game, like as many of them as possible, available for backwards compatibility, which is pretty wise, but knowing publishers, a couple in particular, who just really love milking their audience, I would not be surprised if Microsoft comes up to somebody like, I don't even know, I don't have a really good example, but maybe they go up to Epic and say, hey, we want to put Gears of War 1, 2, and 3 on the Xbox One through backwards compatibility, and then Epic says, well, we're already working on remasters for those games, so no. That way, the only way you can play them is to pay for the remaster, giving the publisher more money. But yeah, it'll just be one of those things, like if you bought the game digitally it'll be in your library, and if that's available on Xbox One, you can just play it on Xbox One. Or if you have the disc, you put the disc in your Xbox One, and if it's available, it'll just boot up like normal.
Yeah, hopefully you don't have to install it like you do all the other friggin' games.
Oh, no, I wouldn't imagine. Actually, because from what I understand is the Xbox One ostensibly is going to run the Xbox 360 is it firmware? I don't know what the proper word for that is, but it's going to run it inside like almost like an emulator type thing. So if you put in an Xbox 360 game into your Xbox One, when you play that, you're going to have the Xbox 360 guide and friends list and all that shit. It's going to like run within it. It's basically just an emulator, which, I don't know, sounds cool shit to me.
Oh, yeah. If that's the case, they won't take advantage of the features of, like, you know, on the Xbox, when you hit the guide button, it doesn't show up the guide menu. It brings you back to the, you know, hub. So we're not going to have those features?
It does both, from what I understand. So I don't know exactly how this is handled, but I know there's one way that you access using the middle button that brings up the 360 guide, and then there's one way that you can actually access the Xbox One guide. So you will be able to say Xbox take pictures. I think you can say Xbox record that, because I think it's all running within the OS. So I think those features will actually be there, but I don't.
From what I understand, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
From what I understand, it's just compatibility and everything else. Like, it has all the features of Xbox One, but you're playing a 360 game, and I think that was the whole thing that they were trying to push. Like, we've got compatibility, so you can enjoy the best of both worlds. Also, an important thing to point out is that if you are playing on the Xbox One, if you're playing a last-gen game, you are able to play multiplayer matches with somebody on the 360.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's all emulation, so it's basically handling it the same way. So I could play with somebody who is on the Xbox 360, or I could play with somebody who's on the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One, because all of it's pretty much handled to the same.
It's essentially like the Wii U, where the Wii U can play Wii games, but it's like a Wii app, and what it does is it essentially, it's like there's a Wii built in on the back of the Wii U, where it's like when you click on the app, it takes you as if you switched over to a Wii, and everything functions like a Wii, until you click on the item on the menu that says go back to the Wii U. So then there it is now, essentially a Wii, until you click on that button, and then it goes to the Wii U. So
I'm going to have to take your word for that. I don't own a Wii U. Mm-hmm. That sounds ostensibly like what it is, and I would not be surprised if Microsoft actually took a little bit of notes from other companies and how they handle it when they were coming up with their thing. But I play real men's consoles, aka PC gaming, so all you peasants with your Wii U's and your kids.
Yeah, I have a 4-year-old, and it's God's gift to fathers, if you have a 4-year-old. For all the people out there. And no, I do not work for Nintendo.
J-Man, shut up. It's a sponsorship. Also, I gotta figure out if I should still call you J-Man or Jared.
I don't care. You can call me whatever.
Interchangeably.
I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about.
Everybody just calls me idiot. So
Yeah, I'm not worried about it for your sake. I'm more worried about it for the audience's sake. But so yeah, that does make me wonder. I mean, I kind of talked about it a little bit, but do you guys? I mean, personally, I think it's almost like a given that some publishers will decline backwards compatibility for their remasters. I guess what I'm curious about is how often do you think that's going to happen?
I don't think it's going to happen that often, especially since we only really have a few things that are remastered at this point, because Microsoft itself said that it's just a flip of a switch, to make something that's backwards compatible. It's all about, getting the permission from the developer or publisher. So I don't know. It seems like we're not going to see it. I don't know. With the backwards compatibility, I don't know if it's really going to change much. Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, here's what I think, and this is just my humble opinion. I have no facts to back it up, but here's what I think is going to happen, and is they're gonna put the backwards compatibility on the Xbox One, and this is going to encourage people who have refused to go to an Xbox One to maybe take that step up and get rid of their Xbox 360, and then what that does is that eliminates the need for, or that's going to eliminate the use of the Xbox 360 console, and then people are going to have an Xbox One and then just buy the newer version of the game when it comes out, and thus it's going to be kind of like how original Xbox games are treated on the Xbox 360. Eventually they'll phase out, and the backwards compatibility will just be kind of a rare used thing. And so as a developer, you've got to think, is it really worth me buying into this for something that may only be effective for, and this is just a random number, for like maybe a year, 2 at the most, and then the use of it is it worth only getting like 2 years of use out of it, if you think about it? That's
actually a really good point, and it's one of those things that I wonder how this will affect in the next generation. I know that's thinking a little ahead, but you made a good point. Backwards compatibility, like the absolute best time to have backwards compatibility is at the very beginning of the console generation. That way, when you're like, hey everybody, check out, we got the Xbox 2. Haha, get it? It's a joke, but it's spelled TOO because we're fucking idiots, and we like taking our marketing strategies after Nintendo. And but guess what? We only got 4 games at all that you can play on it for the first 9 months. That kind of sucks, right? Well, you can play all your Xbox One games on it. Like, I mean, I'm making a joke there, but I mean, that really is the best time, because some people are like, I want to buy that, but I actually play fucking games on it because, as everybody saw, and this is kind of a little bit old news, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's we're year 2 on these consoles already, and there's still not really much to play. Like, the holiday season is looking pretty good, but like, for the most part, my PlayStation is my Destiny machine, and my Xbox One is my Halo the Master Chief collection machine, and that's all I fucking play on them. They've been sitting in these consoles for months because there's nothing really else to play. Like, there is the occasional game, you got your Witchers and stuff like that, but like, I mean, Maybe it's nostalgia glasses, but I feel like the last generation just had more content constantly. Now, you could say, well, they got indies for days, and that may be true, but I don't play a lot of indie games. Not because I think they're bad. I've played some fucking super fun indie games that are way better than some of the AAA, but like, I don't know, there's some, I tend to like the more AAA big games that have a lot of meaty content rather than the smaller ones that do one thing really, really well.
Well, furthering on that point, let's take a look at history here for a second. The PlayStation 2, the number 1 selling console of all time, if I'm not mistaken, right up there with the Wii. Okay, so reasons why it still is on the top of the charts, because of the things that they did with it. First of all, it had backwards compatibility right up front. So people could buy it from launch and play all the games they had, and this is just furthering your point of you should have had it when you revealed it and not a year later, because now it's kind of questionable as to its effectiveness as if they had it a year ago. And the thing, like, everything, they should look at PlayStation 2, and then every console that comes out should use that as an example, because they came out with a console favorite game. They came out with the reverse cap, they came out with like a new control. I mean, everything that it was just done right, and I don't understand why they're doing this so late in the game they do it to begin with. But that's a whole nother thing. All I'm saying is that you're right. I mean, so now they've got maybe a year or 2 down the road, and then this is virtually. So now you've got a struggle that you wouldn't have had a year ago.
Well, to be fair, I don't think that Microsoft was necessarily doing this because they were like, this is the best idea we've ever had, and we should have done this at the beginning. I really think that, like, after Don Matrick, who was the original, not the original, but he was the head of Xbox for the Xbox One's release, Don Matrick clearly had a very, very different plan for the Xbox One than Phil Spencer currently has. So I'm sure it was one of those things that, like, they just didn't even think about, because they were like, this is going to be your new TV thing, and it's all in one, and games are only one of the things it does. Like, it was clearly a different system back then, which is why that wasn't
the intern spoke up, and he's like, well, maybe we should see what the fans want. Shut up!
No! It's about money! Who gives a shit?
Go get me some coffee, you piece of shit!
Seriously. But, like, obviously, it was a different game plan, and I really think that the reason that we have backwards compatibility now so late in the game really is just Microsoft trying to put out good faith towards their console again. Like, Microsoft, I don't understand, then this is a whole other topic that we could talk about later, but the Xbox 360 was as close to greatness as you could get for a console, in my opinion. Like, it was fast, it had a lot of cool features, it worked, it was intuitive. I mean, there was a reason why the Xbox 360 was trouncing the PlayStation 3 back then, but then, like, Microsoft decided, hey, you know, everything that we did great, let's throw that all out and start over with something totally shitty. Like, it wasn't that great, and everybody noticed it. That's why PlayStation 4 is still, even though, you know, Phil Spencer has made some great changes and the Xbox One is becoming a more reputable, you know, console, it didn't start that way. It was getting completely demolished, and PlayStation completely wiped the floor with it. And so I think this was more of just like, hey, you know how great PlayStation is? Well, they charge you to play your old games. Not only do they charge you, but you have to stream it, so it has a lot of input lag and dead zones. Don't you hate that? Well, hey, guess what? If you come to ours, you can play all the games, and you don't have to pay a cent. Like, it really was just a huge marketing move. And for someone like me, it's great because I currently have in my room, because of what I do, I play a lot of fucking video games and I put that on the internet. I have a computer, I have a 360, I have a PS4, and I have an Xbox One. But my monitor that I use to view these things only have 2 HDMI inputs. So I'm constantly unplugging and plugging back in and unplugging and plugging back in all these fucking HDMIs. And I would love to be able to just take my 360 and just throw it in the trash. But I can't, because it has all these games that I play on it, because there's still good games, and there's not nearly as many good games on the Xbox One. So if I could just only have the Xbox One now, that helps me a lot. So I actually really enjoy that feature.
Not to interrupt, but that leads to a good point. And I'm not trying to talk over Stephanie either. I know we want to get her input, but what about the games that you bought and saved to your Xbox 360? I mean, is the hard drive going to be transferable? The licensing on all those games, the arcade games and stuff? But are those arcade games going to be available?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, from what I understand, every game that you own, whether it be digital or physical, will be transferred to the Xbox One.
I'd be devastated if I lost my Worms games.
Dude, we really got to do play one of those at some point. Steph, do you have any input? You've been quiet.
Well, yeah. Going back to the remasters and like how it means to, or what it means to publishers, I think in addition to this being like in good favor to the players, I think this was kind of like a move from Microsoft saying like, hey, we really don't have any games, so let's pad things out until, you know, the holiday season. Because going back to the original vision of Microsoft, even, you know, with the change of power, I think Microsoft was planning to have more games that were coming out and launch, but a lot of games were pushed. And I think this backwards compatibility was to alleviate some of the empty space that was caused by a bunch of these games that were pushed. I mean, a couple examples would be, you know, The Division and, you know, games like that where it's just they've been pushed back, you know, several times. And while it's great for developers to polish things, that kind of messes up with, you know, the schedule of the Xbox One. So in addition to it being good, you know, to appease the gamers a little bit, I think this is also kind of like, we need to have our players to play our new console, you know? And going back to what Jared said, like, this is also another incentive to, like, you know, get rid of your Xbox, put that money towards Xbox One and start playing that Xbox One. Because only reason, really, why I don't have an Xbox One is because I can't necessarily afford it. And most of the games I play are on the 360, and there are a few games I want to play on the Xbox One, but that does not justify the purchase of a brand new console. However, this, with more games being able to be used on the Xbox One from the 360 library, I'm more inclined to sell my Xbox 360 and move over to the One.
Well, I mean, to go back to what you were saying with, trying to pad the library a bit, I mean, we've already seen that. I guarantee you that this Gears of War, the Marcus Phoenix, whatever the fuck it's called, like, I guarantee you that this wasn't in production more than a year or two ago. Like, I guarantee Microsoft's like, hey, 2015 library, what do we got? We got Halo. Hey, Epic, or I guess it's Coalition now, or used to be Black Tusk. Hey, you can have Gears of War ready? And they're like, no. It's like, well, we need Gears of War, and they're like, well, we could always remaster the first one. Great, can you do that? No. Well, then we'll hire some sort of port company to handle it. Like the what is it? Do we know what it's actually called? Is it the Marcus Phoenix something? What is it?
I think it is.
I think it's called Black Ops 3.
No, it's something. It's the.
Gears of War, not Call of Duty.
Yeah, no, the Gears of War, whatever it is.
That's right, it's Gears of War, yeah, we made another one.
Yeah, pretty much. The Gears of War, the one you already played before. Like that...
It's the Ultimate Edition.
It's just called the Ultimate Edition?
I believe so, yeah.
That is such a bizarre thing. Like, I think that the Master Chief Collection is exactly what all remasters should try to be, except for the huge part of it being fucking broken. But what Master Chief Collection tried to be is what I think all remasters should be. It should be like, I don't know, I get it's a lot of work, but I hate when they're like, hey, check out our definitive edition. It's the same game you already played, but the only thing we changed is we upped the resolution, gave it a little more anti-aliasing, gave it a little more anti-soft filtering, and put in a couple features that were exclusive to the PC. It's like, that's not a remaster. You just took the game, you turned a couple knobs, and you put it out again. Halo
It's all starting to come together now.
Yeah, Halo Anniversary, Halo 2 Anniversary. They redid the entire fucking campaign graphically. New engine, new assets, all this like cool shit, and like that's what I want to see. When I pick up Final Fantasy VII, now that they're doing the remaster, and who knows what that's actually going to look like, I don't want to see the same Final Fantasy VII that I played. Was that PlayStation 1? I don't even know. It's been a fucking long time. 10 plus years ago. I don't want to see that.
Well, I'm finally figuring it out, though, the marketing strategy here.
Right, but I want to play that game, and I want to play exactly like I remember it, but I want it to look like it does in my head, like how good it looked back then when I remember it. Now if I go back and it's like, hey, it's in 1080p, but here's our 14 polygon characters, I'm like, that looks like shit. I don't want to see 14 polygon characters. Like, I want remasters to be that, remasters, not ports. And there's so many that like say, hey, this is just a port, but there's so many others that like, it's a definitive edition, it's a remaster, but it's not. You just changed a couple values on your renderer and you said now it's a new fucking thing, and I hate that. I hate that that's a thing. But like this Gears of War, to go back to what I went on a little rant there, but this Gears of War Ultimate Edition, it seems weird because it's basically like, hey, remember that Master Chief Collection? That was fucking awesome, right? Well, we're gonna do kind of that, but way less.
Here's what I think. So it makes sense now why Xbox didn't have backwards compatibility when they first came out, because they knew this all along. They're like, well, we're gonna release this Master Chief where you can play all the old games again, and then we're going to give you backwards compatibility. If we gave them right up front, they would just play their old games and never buy the Master Chief Edition. So it's all part of their marketing strategy.
It might be. You could very well be right with that. I personally think that it wasn't that they deliberately... Like, I'm sure that somebody at some point just kind of said, oh, well, no, we're not doing backwards compatibility. It's too much work. It's not worth it, blah, blah, blah. And that's pretty much as far as that went. But I think that, with this whole thing with Microsoft being trounced by Sony and then having a perfect angle to, like, really hit Sony in a soft spot, I think that's what really did it. But it's an interesting thing because what you're talking about, J-Man, is exactly why I think that, like, this, remasters versus... backwards compatibility is going to be an interesting issue, because if all publishers could say no without getting completely shit on by the fan base being like, what the fuck, then every publisher would say no, because every publisher wants to release the game again for more money. They're companies want money. It's not a hard fucking concept to grasp. But the thing is they know that if they do it, that they're going to get shit on. Because if, let's say Battlefield and Call of Duty, let's say Battlefield says, and I don't know why this is just completely arbitrary and I'm pulling shit out of my ass. But Battlefield says, yeah, you can play our games, sure, enable backwards compatibility. But Call of Duty says, no. Then all the Call of Duty fans are gonna be like, what the fuck? Why do Battlefield people get it? What the fuck? And it's gonna make Activision look bad. So there's gonna be this really interesting give and take there where they have to weigh that. Is it worth the money that they're gonna get from the remasters to counteract the bad faith that they're going to get by doing so?
The answer is no, because of places like GameStop, where you can just buy used version of the old game and play it on your new console, as opposed to buying a remaster,
right? Where
you have to buy a remaster.
But you also got to consider there's a lot of people, man, and I mean a lot of people who want the best of the best. So I mean, I'm not going to lie, I own The Last of Us on the PlayStation 3. I bought the remaster, and I bought the remaster solely for the 60 frames a second.
Oh my gosh, you're an idiot!
I am an idiot. But I mean, it is kind of stupid. I spent fucking $120. Oh no, because the remaster was it 50? It was a little less. Either way, I spent nearly $100 on the same game. It literally is the same game. The only thing that changed is the resolution, and it runs at 60 frames a second. And so, like, I understand that. Like, when for example, there was the Tomb Raider, was it 2012? Did they come out in 2012? That game came out, and everybody's like, this game's really cool. But then they're like, we're putting the remaster on the next-gen consoles, and you can have 60 frames a second and Tress effects. Everybody's like, that's only two things, but that sounds kind of cool. And that sold pretty decently well, from what I understand.
Yeah,
so,
worked for Resident Evil. I wanted to go out and buy Resident Evil for that, just because it was in high definition.
So like I do agree, there's a lot of people that are like, no, I already own this game, I'm not going to do that. But I think there's a lot more that are like, I want the best version, so I'm going to buy that. I mean, let's... Oh, sorry, I'll let you go in 1 second. I just want to do one final thought. I mean, if these remasters weren't selling really well, then there wouldn't be so fucking many of them. So I do think that there's a lot of people buying them. I mean, we're getting remasters of everything. Go ahead.
But take in consideration of people coming from a different console family. I think remasters are a good point of entry for people, for example, who owned an Xbox 360 but want to play the exclusive titles on the PS4.
Right.
They would want to have, if they were going to pay $60 for a game, they rather have the better version, even if it's better by a small percentage.
No, I agree.
And that's why I think exclusives are probably going to have the remasters, even if they do have that backwards compatibility. Because while there is the audience who will purchase pre-owned games, I don't buy pre-owned games. And I don't know how large of a percentage of gamers have like my mindset. So if I were to, for example, purchase a PS4, never owned a PS3, I'm more inclined to buy the remastered versions of it than the old version. So even though I can see some conflict that the compatibility might have for the remasters, I don't think it's going to be that large. If anything, now it does put the pressure on them to now their remasters have to have something more, like almost like the Halo franchise, what they did. Instead of just, a quick little up-res. I think it will put pressure on the publishers.
Well, The Last of Us, I bought the remastered because, like you, I owned a PlayStation 3, but I got rid of it. And it was my only way to play the game, until they came out with the backwards compatibility. So the backwards compatibility adds that issue, as now remasters do kind of lose their, edge to the people who don't really give a crap about graphics as much as some might. Right. So that's an interesting point that you make there. Yeah,
there's a couple things that I wanted to touch on to what you said, and I'm actually drawing a blank on one of them. But like, I wasn't saying that remasters are going to become like a huge ordeal. All I was saying is that I think that it's going to be an interesting situation now, because it's going to be a conversation. How many backwards compatibilities are going to be declined because of a remaster already in development, and how many remasters aren't going to be remastered because of the backwards compatibility.
It'd be nice to have the stats, you know?
And the thing is it's going to be sometimes hard to even have the stats, because it could be as simple as somebody, like one of the higher-ups being like, hey, should we remaster Legend of Dragoon? And they'll be like, no, we already backwards compatible. Oh, okay. You know, I mean, like, who knows how that's all going to go down. But what? Oh shit! Yeah, I remember what I was going to say before. Is that and I think that this for first party exclusive, or just I guess I should just say exclusive, because there are third party exclusive games being remastered for the new gens are actually it's a more interesting situation this year or this generation than I think it would be for most, because I don't think that we've had quite as a stir up with the generations as we did this last one. Like, there's a lot of people like, oh, PlayStation 3, oh, Xbox 360, I'm gonna move over and stuff like that. But like it was relatively minimal. Like, a lot of people, had the XboxOne, the Xbox original, and went to the Xbox 360. A lot of people had the PlayStation 2 and went to the PlayStation 3. There was a little bit of crossover, but this generation had probably what might be the craziest crossover ever, where there was so many people who are a fan of Sony being like, yeah, I'm staying with Sony. And so many people are a fan of the Xbox 360 saying, fuck Microsoft, I'm getting a PlayStation 4. And so, like, what you were saying for that is, like, you never had a PlayStation 3, and I bet a shitload of people who own PlayStation 4s right now didn't either. And so that does give them a chance to play their God of Wars with their God of War collections, and their The Last of Us, and their Nathan Drake collections, which are coming out this year, and stuff like that. It does let them play those games, which is cool.
I agree, yeah, because I played Uncharted 2 when I had a PlayStation 3, and I couldn't play Uncharted 3 because I got rid of it. So it gives me an opportunity to play Uncharted 3. But the other point, and this kind of is banking off of the points Steph made, was what about the younger generation who didn't play Halo 1, Halo 2? Mm-hmm. Now, with these remasters, they're like, well, all I care about is the latest and greatest. They come out with this new remaster. Now, all of a sudden, they're playing Halo 1 and Halo 2. What about the money that they're getting from that aspect? I mean, because if I'm in the marketing group, I'm looking at statistics, and statistics are my best friend. I'm looking at how many people did blah and blah 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 blah, and when you measure it all up, how you want to reach the biggest demographic where you're going to make the most money. So, what is that is what we need to define, and then that's how you determine whether going backwards compatibility is a logical decision or not. And I guess now it is, as opposed to it wasn't it.
And it is interesting because, like, a lot of games suffer from what the internet likes to call old game is old, which is like, for an example, I have a friend, I love this guy, but he's kind of a fucking piece of shit too. But like, he got the Master Chief Collection, and he went back and played Halo 1, and he's like, I can't believe anybody liked this game. This game is fucking hot street trash. and I'm like, okay, it's old, I get that. And he's like, I would rather play 007 GoldenEye on the fucking N64. And I'm like, have you played that game recently? Because I'm gonna go out and say this right now before anybody gets mad. I fucking loved GoldenEye 007. That was my childhood. Me and my friends would go over to each other's house and shoot each other in the same fucking head for months. We played that game forever. Play that game now. It is horrible. It is so bad. It controls like ass. It plays like crap. I love that game. It was one of my favorite games of all time, but it's not good. Halo 1 still plays good. Is it great? No. Is it as good as the new ones? Arguably. Depends on what your opinion is. But like, to think that game plays worse than GoldenEye 007. It's just like, I don't even understand. But the problem is, and the whole point that I brought this up is like, maybe what you're talking about, Jamin, is like, oh, I never played Halo 1. Somebody might buy the remaster and then play Halo 1. It's like, what the fuck? This isn't Halo. This game sucks. Like, yeah. It's an interesting thing.
I don't think that's going to happen too often. I guess it depends on what the newer games that the newer generation are playing. But I'm going to go back to, like, Call of Duty 2, for example. I wasn't able to play that game until maybe a couple years back. And while for most cases games do age terribly, there are some games, particularly the ones that have been remastered, that hold up pretty well. The same thing with Resident Evil 4 when it came to the 360. I only was able to play it, recently. Love that game. Love Call of Duty 2. And I think what's probably going to happen is that the remasters are really going to happen for the games that sold well and held up well. Like, I don't really think we're ever going to see a remaster for 007, even if Nintendo didn't own it. And I think what's going to happen is that the majority of games will be, switched on for backwards compatibility, but only really like the cream of the crop would come over to the Xbox One. Because what would happen is that we're going to get a lot of titles, if they just went with whatever, we're going to get a lot of titles that look great but play like garbage and won't probably sell well.
Right.
Which is yeah, go ahead. That's pretty much it.
No, go ahead. You're fine. I agree with you, and it's one of those things that J-Man kind of hinted on earlier, and this is actually what I hope comes from this, is I hope that almost all the publishers or game developers who own the rights to these games say yes, backwards compatibility, and what I'm hoping that does is it drives the remasters to be better, not just ports, not just, hey, we turned up a couple knobs on our renderer. Like, I want it to be like, hey, you already own, let me think of something. Somebody throw out a random game. You already own
Barbie's Playhouse.
You already own Barbie's Playhouse. That game is great, right? But it's a little old. But we want to give you that same experience that he had, but better. So we redid all the animations. We redid all the character models. We redid the sounds. We've added this cool game mechanic. We've increased the energy. We've added all the DLC. And now you can make Barbies naked.
Sold.
Seriously, I want that type of thing where it's like, hey, here's the remaster, but here's why you want to buy it instead of playing the one you already own.
I want to see Master Chief naked.
Right. I want to see his huge red-headed cock.
Yeah, who hasn't thought while watching his backside, or actually watching through his eyes when you're playing a game, like, man, I really wish I could see him naked.
All I want to
who
say...
Who hasn't thought about that?
All I want to say, Master Chief doesn't have a codpiece in Halo 4. You want to know why? Boner. Fucking broke it off. That's how big his dick is. I would love to see that thing.
I want to see that thing drag on the ground.
Seriously.
That's all I'm going to say.
I want him to use it as a pole vault to get over things.
That's why crouching in Halo is so hard.
he tries to crouch, but his legs just lift up.
It really hurts.
He's still in the same position. His legs just start floating in the air. He looks like he's a popsicle.
That brings me to the to what came up when we were talking about the remasters and how much more effort they have to put. While special features like dawn crouching might be great.
Yeah.
That there's a new breed, or at least a different breed of remaster called reimagining. And I think so far the only one that I'm aware of is what Insomniac is doing for Ratchet & Clank, where they're stating that it's not just a remaster, it's a reimagining. They are starting from the ground up, remaking the entire game with different, designs and stuff like that. And I wonder, do you think...
Like Tomb Raider.
I think the difference is that Tomb Raider was called a reboot, which is basically, here's the franchise you love, but we're basically throwing out all that wasn't good, embracing what was good, and adding new to make it good. From what this sounds like, is it's like, hey, this is the first game, but if we would have made the first game now, is what I'm getting from that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just trying to make another point.
God.
Jeez. But
as you were saying before I rudely interrupted.
I think that's a fantastic direction people can make, because the problem with remasters, and this was talked about earlier, is that sometimes the gameplay doesn't hold up. So a good alternative would be, reimagining it. And in a way, this will kind of cost less than producing a new IP or another thing in the franchise, because you are using the old game as a template. And that cuts down the amount of work of game design, and all you have to do is polish it, fix some bugs, and just fix some levels or some gameplay mechanics that weren't up to snuff. And it's essentially like the old game 2.0 instead of just the remaster. And I think publishers should go in that direction, because it just offers more than just a graphical update.
Well, I mean, it's a really interesting thing, but it's one of those things that's really kind of risky, because you're walking a very bizarre line. Mm-hmm. Because if you change too much, then people are going to be like, this isn't the game that I played, and that could turn people off if you don't change enough. They're like, I already played this game. It's this really interesting thing. I don't want to backtrack, but I've had this page open since J-Man was talking about the best-selling console, and there's a couple things here that actually I didn't really expect. It kind of blew my mind. So, J-Man, you are correct. The PlayStation 2 is the highest-selling video game console with 155 million. But guess what the second console is and how close it is to that number?
Wii, and I think it's like 10 million less or something.
It's actually the Nintendo DS with 154 million.
Oh, I'm thinking consoles, not handhelds.
But still, that even blew my mind. That's a lot of handhelds.
Yeah, it's by far the most popular of all time.
The other thing that kind of surprised me and I didn't really expect is Xbox 360 sold 84 million. The PlayStation 3 sold 83.8. That is really fucking close.
Weird. Wow.
Yeah, I did not expect that. Especially when you look at like the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 right now, where the PlayStation 4 is at 22.3 million and the Xbox One is only at 10. That is over double the units. Like, it is destroying it right now.
I think what happened with the with the PS3 is that at the beginning of the console race, the PS3 wasn't really selling that well. I think a huge part of it, though, is that it introduced the Blu-ray player on it or something like that.
The main problem is that it was $600 fucking dollars.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. And at the beginning, they didn't sell as well as the 360, but I think what happened and why they're so close now is that it caught up. I think that's what happened.
What about the fact that it's these are worldwide sales and Sony's probably just there's more people to buy it in, say, Japan or something than.
Yeah, that's right. Xbox isn't popular in Japan. It really does not sell.
Not only that, but people could also argue that PlayStation 3 had a lot better exclusives and more of a reason to buy them. That's semantics. Everybody has an opinion. But what I do want to,
if it's wrong.
What I do want to touch on before we get too far, because it was the last stipulation on this, what do you guys think this means for Sony's PlayStation Now?
Fuck it.
That is an excellent question. I don't know if they're going to reduce the prices or they're just going to have a thing like if you are a PSN member, you have this for free. Kind of like how the EA Vault works.
Yeah, because, I mean, clearly...
Don't get me started on that.
Clearly, Microsoft did this as a direct shot at Sony, which, I mean, I think that Microsoft did it rather tastefully. I mean, maybe I'm wrong with that. It seemed like it was basically like, here's this thing that you all kind of wanted, and we're not going to make you pay for it, which was like the part where it's like wink towards Sony, like it wasn't like distastefully done. But it was actually funny because me and Jared talked the night after E3 that this had all come out, so I'm going to kind of reiterate a couple things that I talked about it for them. But Sony is in a really, really difficult position right now because they spent so much fucking money to make this PlayStation Now thing work. Like, they spent millions to just buy Gaikai, then years and years of making it work on their platform, years and years of paying all the people to do all that shit. I mean, they have put a shitload of money into this, and people have already been complaining because it's too expensive, which in my opinion it really is. Like, they are charging way too much for it, especially for the quality that you're getting. The latency is pretty bad even with great internet. There's a whole other thing, but I mean they're charging a shitload of money for a very short window of time, and pretty much the only thing that Sony has on Microsoft right now that is better than what Microsoft will be offering is that Sony's isn't just limited to the PlayStation 3. They got PlayStation 2 in there, they got PlayStation 1 in there, they got a lot of older games, which is the selling point in my opinion.
Actually, but just to expand on that, when you go through their subscription, you can only get so many games with that subscription. Other games, you still have to purchase separately.
Yeah.
And that's bullshit. So, and that could fall into... And the games are completely random. Like, you get Uncharted 3 with the subscription, but you don't get, like, God of War with this. Or, I'm not saying that's exactly the... maybe a bad example, but I'm saying, but that's kind of how it is. It's just random what games you get.
Well, that's all licensing. Like, licensing is a pain in the fucking ass, and the fact that Netflix does as well as it does, even though they really don't get very many new movies on there, I mean, licensing is a fucking nightmare, so I'm sure that's a huge part of it, but, like, I mean, the thing is if I have a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox 3 or Xbox One. So let's say that I'm like, I want to play a game from last generation. I mean, it's kind of an arbitrary comparison because, different games for different reasons. But, like, if I wanted to play something from the 360, I can just throw that in. If I want to play it on the PlayStation 4, I have to pay for this service, pay for a time limit that I'm allowed to use that game, and then deal with the latency, deal with the dead zones.
Access while you're playing.
Must be connected to the internet. Like for those reasons, I mean, Sony is basically fucked. Like I said, the only thing that Sony currently has that makes it better than what Microsoft is offering is the fact that I can get PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1 games, etc. But Sony is in like this really fucked situation because no matter what they do, they are getting hosed. Because if they continue to charge for it, first off, a lot of people won't pay for it, and other people are going to be like, why don't I get this for free? But if they stop charging for it, then they basically swallowed millions and millions of dollars with the purchase of Gaikai and the R&D to make this work on their system. I don't know what you do as Sony other than maybe just be like, I guess just keep going and see what happens. I mean, they could maybe bring down the price or extend the duration or things like that, but inherently it is a flawed system compared to just the disc runs. It runs off the disc. Ultra fast response time.
Break down the price.
Yeah.
Because it's like something like $40 for 3 months. Or it was like $20 a month, but that was with like some special deal they were running. Otherwise, normally it's like $30 a month or something. It was I remember it being some stupid number because I was going to buy it so I could play a bunch of games with my kid. And I just remember looking at the price and it being so ridiculous that I was like, what? PlayStation must have a very high opinion of themselves and the quality of their games if they're willing to throw out this rich person price per month, because I'm like, geez.
I have a question. So it's just a subscription, so you pay a monthly amount and then you can play all of their games? How does
No, that's what I was talking about before. It's a limited selection. But if you want a game that's not in that part of their thing, then you have to pay for that.
But you do get more than, you're not paying game to game anymore. Is that what I'm hearing?
And unless it's a game that's not in their subscription package.
Because how they used to have it, from what I understand, it was like a rental service, i.e. like Blockbuster, where you could go over I want to rent Uncharted 2, and it's like, do you want to play it for one day? Because that's $5. Do you want to play it for a week? Because that's $20. It was something. Obviously, those are just random numbers, but I remember it being insane how much money you were spending for how little time you had. The internet went ablaze with it.
Yeah, you couldn't buy the game; you could only rent it, and I think it was maximum 90 days, and you could pay up to $50 for 90 days of a shitty ass game.
The price.
I remember that.
The price of a game to only have it for 3 months. Yeah, it was something ridiculous. So it's interesting. So they have changed that. So it's just, hey, you subscribe to our service and you get access to our library. Is that what I'm?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to the games that we got licensed for the subscription service. So obviously some games aren't going to be a part of that, and you're going to have to do their shitty service. Other alternative service that they originally had to use those games, but the games that are on board, Uncharted 3 was as an example that I'm gonna use is part of that. So if I was in the subscription, I'd be able to play unlimited Uncharted 3 as long as I was in their subscription.
That just sounds like a mess.
Well, that is.
But some games you couldn't. You have to buy them.
That is way better. I did not actually realize that they had changed that. That is a more acceptable thing for me, because that's basically having another Netflix, except Netflix doesn't charge $30. They charge
you're essentially
10.
paying for a game per month with how expensive it is.
Well, and depending on what type of gamer you are, that could actually be a good value. If you're like a 16-year-old kid that's got 3 months off for summer vacation and all you're going to be doing is playing video games, you could play 4, 5, 6 games in that time and have only spent a fraction of the price. So it just depends on who you are. If you're like me and you, J-Man, who have not a shitload of free time, then it's going to be I spent $30, but I played it for 2 hours. That wasn't worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that is interesting. I did not realize they made that change. That is very smart, and it actually kind of makes it worse because they already made that change, so they can't even really get much better, at least not anything that's coming to my mind.
Well, what's really going to suck are the people who sign up for it and are like, oh, I've been looking forward to playing this PlayStation 2 game, and it's like not part of the service.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It just sounds more convoluted than it's worth, really, because it's like, I appreciate Sony like trying to make the changes to improve on their player base, but I don't know. Do you think Sony would eventually bite the bullet and just give,
I don't know if they can, because Sony has been in the red for years now. Like, the only division, from what I understand, that's been in the black at Sony has been their gaming division. So I don't know how much they can really swallow.
They're in the black with the number one top-selling console of all time. That just goes to show you that every year makes a difference, man.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, and it's an interesting thing. I mean, Sony is really killing it. Like, I think that Xbox and Microsoft are making good changes, but I mean, I think Sony is gonna lead this generation probably till the end, just like the 360 led with the PlayStation 3.
Yeah. You can't make the mistakes that. Sorry, I interrupted.
You fucker.
But the point I wanted to make was, and then you can go and say what you're saying. But was that with today you have the social media to worry about, where you didn't have that back in PlayStation 2 times. With the social media today, you can't afford to make a mistake because everybody in the world is going to know about it. And every single thing you do wrong, you're gonna know about, and it's just gonna end up. I mean, think about it. If there was no social media, and we didn't have the Skype and the Facebook and the Twitter and all that, and Xbox One and PlayStation 4 came out, people who had a 360 more likely would have went with the Xbox One, because all of that hype would have been a lot lessened of, people trashing on the NSA looking at you while you're playing, all that stuff. All that would have been a lot less drastic. And, so that's the other thing is these companies keep in mind, is that every decision they make and everything they release is going to be all over the world in seconds.
Right.
So, but continue.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, because like what happened is the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 came out, and the Xbox 360 came out, and it was like, hey, we got this thing and that thing, and the PlayStation is way more money and all that shit, and everybody's like, well, then I'm going to go with the 360 because it's it's not nearly as expensive. But then, like, the Xbox 360 had like, oh, well, now we're red ringing, and the PlayStation 3 is like, oh, we're breaking too, but not as bad as the Xbox 360. But like, it took a long time for Sony to get the games out and get the console in a price range that was doable to a majority of the public. And at that point, 360 had already been ahead by so far that PlayStation 3 was just playing catch up for the rest of it. And that's pretty much exactly what the situation is with the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, except for PlayStation 4 is kicking Xbox's ass even harder than the 360 kicked the PlayStation 3's ass. So what's going to happen is Sony has these really great exclusives. They already have a shitload of people from the beating that Microsoft took in the first year, and it's like they're already so far ahead. So now Microsoft literally just has to play catch up. They have to get the best games that they can possibly get. They have to get the best pricing they can possibly get. They have to get this and that and the other, and it's basically just going to be an uphill battle for the rest of this generation, and I don't think Microsoft is ever going to overtake Sony. Maybe in the end, or if Microsoft somehow comes out with like the golden gun of reveals that like brings everybody there. I just don't see that happening. I think Sony it's over 2 times. That's a 2-to-1 ratio console to console, and that's huge. That disparity is crazy. For the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and Cycle, it's literally 1-to-1 down to 200,000 units. That is insanely close, and I don't think that gap's ever gonna close with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. It might get close, but I don't know. At the way it's currently going, I just don't see it.
Yeah, the PlayStations, they're pushing their Oculus Rift, are they not? And then the Xbox is pushing their hologram. I mean, the features from here on out are either going to be extremely expensive and are not worthy enough to really differ the wars here. Pretty much, it just all comes down to how you can appease your audience.
Right.
And
It'll be an interesting thing to see. I'm really curious to see how this plays out. I was really excited for this E3 because of just seeing where it was going, and it was a really interesting thing because Microsoft always starts first. And, I would say that I myself and a lot of the internet, after watching the Microsoft conference, was just like, man, that was actually pretty good. They actually did a really good job. Sony has a lot to live up to. And then Sony just came out and just like, hey, all you motherfucking gamers out there, we're going to kick you right in your nostalgia button. Wha-bam! And then like the internet went on fire. It's like, oh my God, Last Guardian. Oh my God, Final Fantasy 7. Oh my God, Shenmue 3. Like Sony came out swinging in terms of just hitting all these old-time gamers straight in their nostalgia button, and everybody lost their fucking minds. Microsoft had some really cool games. It had a great reveal with the controller, even though it's ludicrously overpriced. So that'll be another topic for another day. Their backwards compatibility, I mean, they came out and they're like, here's all the new stuff that we're doing, and it's really cool, even though the new still kind of means old with backwards compatibility. But then Sony came out and they're just like, yeah, well, we're gonna hit you guys all in your heart. We're gonna make your heart warm and sing. And they ultimately end up, I think, winning the conferences in most people's hearts because of that. Because all the new gamers, like, I don't know what any of that means, but all the old gamers who make up a huge portion of the gaming industry, they were like, oh my God, I loved all of these games. I cannot wait to play them again. And it's really interesting because every time Microsoft takes a step forward, somehow, some way, Sony ends up kicking them 2 steps back. It's a really, really interesting battle to watch. It's some of the most interesting in just general gaming industry. Interested in general gaming industry that I've been in a very long time because this is insane. This is an insane situation. Does anybody else have any more topics or any more things to say onto that one?
Well, I think next podcast you should have a representative from Microsoft or Sony.
I'll contact Phil Spencer.
Yeah, you make sure you contact them.
I'll bring Phil Spencer. You bring Shuhei Yoshida, and we'll.
Yeah, I know him personally. I'll just send him an email, and
we hang out. We do poker nights together.
Yeah.
No.
Play Dungeons and Dragons together. I mean, it's
how
awesome.
fucking insane would it be though if episode 2 of this shit ass podcast had the heads of fucking PlayStation division and Xbox division on them? That would be unheard of.
And then halfway through the podcast, Bill Gates comes in.
And Steve Jobs comes back from the dead.
And he's like, wait a minute, I don't know shit what's going on with Microsoft. I just collect the check. I'll see you guys later.
I just get millions of dollars a day just for existing.
Billions. Oh, yeah, a day, yeah. But, so, it's interesting. I'd like to see how this plays out. But really what we say doesn't really matter. All that matters is what Steph has to say.
I think she fell asleep.
I got nothing to say,
She's got the short answers that are really well thought out. That's pretty much what it is.
Make all the games compatible for all systems. I want the Xbox games playable on the PlayStation console. Do it.
Every game, console
I want to play
put
Jaguar
together,
games.
all into one supercomputer that we name Skynet.
Yes, I want an addition to my Xbox where I could stick a N64 cartridge in it and play it.
Without having to blow in it.
Yes. Yeah, I want to play Nintendo cartridges again.
Well,
let's bring Nintendo back.
We've talked a lot of...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to move on, so if you have something to say on this topic.
I was actually going to go back to what Jamin said. GameStop is selling retro consoles now, and is accepting pre-owned, consoles and games, and they are selling retro consoles and games. So if you want to play your Nintendo cartridges on your Nintendo, I was going to say cartridge player, you can do that now. Man,
nostalgia is such an interesting thing, man.
It really is.
It really seems like if you hit people in their nostalgia, like they're going to crumble. Like, I don't know, it's like the weak critical hit spot on all gamers is just like hit them right in their nostalgia. It's a really interesting thing. Speaking of that was gonna be such a good segue.
We'll edit over it. We'll edit it out.
Everybody shut up. Hold on, I gotta fix it in post. Speaking of nostalgia, to go on to our next topic, what franchise is currently been absent that you guys would like to see come back and make a return?
I think it's obvious for me.
And that is
Leisure
Suit Larry.
Duh. Nailed it.
Go ahead.
Well, actually, it's on its way back. They're making one, so I guess it doesn't really fall under the category. I was gonna say Zelda because it's just been a while. But you're talking gone for a long time.
Zelda's still been around.
It's always gonna be here.
Zelda's been around. Like they've released a game within the past couple of years. I was thinking like something that's like been gone for 5-6 years. You know, a decent amount of time. Not like Call of Duty because they haven't put one out this year yet. You know what I mean?
I got you.
I guess we probably should have prepped this one. Steph, this was your topic, so I'm hoping that you had an answer. Do you want to go while we think?
I wanted to say Pikmin 2, but then I realized there was a Pikmin 3 on the Wii U. The thing is that I don't own a Wii U, so that never...
Yeah, but that... Yeah, I guess that is semi-recent.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it looks great, so...
But when did that come out? That was at least... Well... Because it came out like 2 years before Arc, so it's been 4 years ago, right?
Yeah, the problem with
I'd count it. I'd count it.
Nah. The problem with Nintendo like games is that they are continuously being made. It's just that there's giant gaps in between them. Like for example, the new Star Fox game is coming out.
The same 10 franchises. Sorry,
exactly. But I do have one franchise that I would love to see a return of. And this is mostly on nostalgia because compared to other platformers, wasn't so great. But Ty the Tasmanian Tiger was originally developed by Chrome Studios. Unfortunately, it folded after it did some funny business with Microsoft. So yeah, I would like to see return because I really do want to play that boomerang wielding marsupial again. I really did like the mechanic that they introduced in the third game where you can have like these stones and you can attach them to your boomerang and it'll give them different powers and, you know, elemental effects that you can combine them and create some weird effects from it. But yeah, I don't know. I like that series. I would like to see a return. But, I mean, aside from that, I mean, it's a good return from it. I don't know, as a reboot or whatever, but I just want a general, like, return of platformers, which I believe we are seeing, you know, ukulele and you know, Ratchet and Clank coming back and, you know, things like that. So yeah.
All right, well I have one, but I'm gonna need everybody to not interject until I'm done because it's gonna be kind of hard. I know you guys are gonna be pretty blown away by it. I want to see Shenmue 3. Wait, they're making that? That was the Kickstarter at Sony's conference? Are you fucking what? Oh, shit. I'm gonna need more moments.
Yeah, what about Tony Hawk's?
It's coming back, isn't it?
They are bringing that back, right?
Yeah, I believe they are.
That's why I said it.
I want to see... I want to see The Last Guardian return. Oh, fuck, that came back too. Everybody in this house, they hit me right there. No, I really do have to think about this. I really should have prepped. J-Man, have you been successful? Jared, have you been successful?
A Metroid game?
Good. Me and Steph just had a conversation about this.
An actual Metroid game, because the new Metroid game that's currently in development isn't really Metroid. It's like what happened with Spyro and Skylanders in that regard, where it's like, this is Metroid, but only in name, and maybe in lore somewhere. But it's not, you know, the Metroid game people want, you know? It's not like Prime, or it's not like the original one. It's something different, which Nintendo has a tendency to do with their franchises, where instead of just making a proper sequel, it's like, we're taking this character, this franchise, and we're going to do something completely different with it. It's like, that's great and innovative, but it's not exactly what the players want. You know, it's too much of a change. You know, it's okay to make innovations, it's okay to make different changes, but when you do something that's completely different, I feel like that's just might as well make a new IP at that point.
Okay, so Steph wants a banjo-wielding marsupial or some shit. J-Man, you wanted what?
That's Banjo and Kazooie.
What did you said? Metroid?
Yeah, Metroid, maybe another Splinter Cell. I don't know how long it's been since they've had one of those, but I love Splinter Cell.
I have two kind of answers because I don't know. I feel like they're okay. I'll just say it instead of trying to explain it. I really want to see a Resident Evil classic style Resident Evil game come out. Now I know that Jesus Christ phone. I know that Capcom has has said, that they're rebooting the Resident Evil franchise and they're trying to go back to the roots. Problem is they've only said that. We haven't seen anything, so I don't know what that means. I don't know what that looks like. So I'm gonna half count that as a legitimate answer, because like I do want that. I don't necessarily mean I want a fixed camera or anything like that, but I want a scary survival Resident Evil game. I am kind of a hypocrite because I think Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorite, if not my favorite Resident Evil game.
It's scary.
But it's such a different game. It's not what I think of when I think Resident Evil. So I really want them to go back to that. I want it to be dark. I want it to be scary. I want when you see a single zombie that you go, oh, fuck. Not like you walk into a room in Resident Evil 5 and you'd be like, count 8. Man, they sounds like they should have made it a fair fight. And then you just blow them all up with a rocket launcher. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I want to go into a room, hear a zombie down the hallway, but don't like necessarily know where it's at, and be legitimately scared to turn a corner. Whereas when in Resident Evil 4, you walk into a room and they're just all there.
And I want it to be that type of thing where like you walk down a hallway and there's a zombie at the end of that hallway, and then you literally have to stop and go, do I use my ammo on this guy, or do I run past him, or do I find a new way around? Like I want it to be fucking scary again.
Yeah.
Make a damn horror game!
I want one zombie to be a big deal. I want one zombie to be a big deal.
Like I love that, because like, and this is going to be kind of a rant because I still haven't gotten to my other point. Dead Space 1, I feel like did a pretty good job with that. Like it was more action, and it was more, like you went to a room and there were several of them, but it was still one of those things where like if a single necromorph came out of a vent, you're like, fuck, this thing could actually kill me if I'm not worried about it. In Resident Evil like 5, you walk into a place like 6 Virginia and you're like, I could probably get hit like 7 times, then I have to worry. Like I want them to be threatening again. I want them to feel threatened. But if that doesn't count because they already talked about making it, I want another World War II shooter. And I know that everybody's gonna be like, what are you talking about? That was so saturated. It has been so long since I played a good World War II shooter. I was looking...
Call of Duty 2.
I was looking... Yeah, well, that was the thing. I was looking back at our Call of Duty 2 footage, and I miss that type of gameplay. I want World War II. I want bolt action. I want your shots to count. I want it when you miss that you're like, fuck, I'm probably going to die now because I missed my shot. I want the bullets to feel like they actually hurt. And I want that all done with like the modern engine, because Call of Duty 2 is still a great game. But the fact that you walk so slow is a little weird, and the controls are a little clunky, and they're not as smooth as they possibly could be. Like if DICE made, after Star Wars Battlefront, if DICE made a World War II bolt action reliant shooter, I might be able to die after I play it.
The thing with Call of Duty 2 though, and is in World War II type games, is like, and even if you did like World War 1, like you're reliving history. So like I'm storming the beach of Normandy and seeing how fucking crazy this is, and this isn't a video game. This is history.
Right.
This is something that actually happened, and I'm a part of it, and I'm seeing and experiencing how fucking crazy and brutal it was firsthand. Whereas like in Black Ops or whatever, you can do a scene like that, but it's all pretend in your head. It's like you're not reliving something that's actually happened, because they have no limits. But World War II, like there's so much fucked up shit that happened in there that they've made games out of it, and they've all been like crazy because you're living a part of that history. And that's kind of what that does it for me, is with the World War II, is like everything you're doing is been done. It's part of history. Right. You're just living it.
This will be a separate topic, so I'm not going to go too much into it, but one of the most amazing moments in video games that I ever had was back Medal of Honor. I'm trying to remember exactly which Medal of Honor game it was. I'm drawing a blank on it, unfortunately, but it was a Medal of Honor game, and I'm like, I like shooters. I like playing shooters. I'm going to get this Medal of Honor game. And I get this Medal of Honor game literally knowing basically fuck all about it. And I put it in, and I'm like, okay, and go through the tutorial level or whatever. And then the game actually starts, and you're like in the bottom of what appears to be like a submarine or a boat of some sort, and things are going crazy. And this guy's like, "We gotta get the fuck out of here!" And like everything's going crazy, and you're like, "I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. Where do I go?" And everything's going like ham and crazy and shit, but you don't know where you are, or at least I didn't because I didn't do any research. And then like after 10 minutes of trying to escape from this boat, you finally come to a stairwell that takes you up top, and you step up top and your vision clears, and you are in Pearl Harbor. And there are fucking ships flying overhead, and things are exploding, and it looked amazing at the time. And I like legitimately got chills as a kid. I'm a kid. I don't know what fucking World War is. What's death? I'm a kid. I don't know. But like I was literally getting chills. I'm like, this is crazy intense. And this is real.
Because it actually happened.
Yeah, and it's real. And like I didn't know what I was getting into, and people are dying, and now this guy's like, "Oh God, it's down, you gotta get on this thing." And I'm like trying to use this like turret that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm shooting down fucking Jap jets. Like it was crazy.
I killed like 8 people that were on my side. Right. It was crazy.
No, and I'm serious. Like when I think of World War II, there's Call of Duties, Battlefield's dabbled into it. There's a bunch of like offhand games of like different like Badge of Honors and Valors and all this shit. They all did it. But when I think World War II games, that is what comes to my mind. That just moment of stepping up on top of that carrier and just seeing everything going to hell around you. It was a really, really fucking cool experience. But yeah, that's what I want. I want Resident Evil back to its roots, and I want a next gen, or I guess I should say new gen, AAA quality, good World War II shooter.
Yeah, well, I'm with Steph on the Call of Duty 2 though, because Call of Duty 2 was the first game I got for my Xbox 360, and it's the only, and I still own it. It's the only game that I've bought at the early ages of 360 and still own. So
no, Call of Duty 2 is a fantastic fucking game. It really, really is. Okay, cool. So I guess we move on to the next.
That's an hour. I think that's more. I think most people are probably exiting out of the video right now at this point. So.
You don't listen to enough podcasts, buddy. So then, do you just want to end it here?
Sure call.
J-Man's getting grumpy, guys. So I think
we can go another. I don't think we can do another hour.
No, I don't want to do another hour. I was.
Well, I think if we get on another topic, we got another hour on our hands.
Well, we did 2 in 30 minutes roughly, so we could have got another. Yeah, it's fine. Fine, guys. J-Man's getting grumpy. He needs to get his daytime nap. Yeah, he needs to rest. Otherwise, he gets angry and starts throwing a fit. So.
Well, I'm just actually what it is I'm afraid that we're gonna get on a topic and my wife's gonna text me and then we're gonna have to wrap it up because she's been gone for like an hour and a half and.
Maybe she's I don't fucking some of the dudes.
I'm wondering if she's like going extra slow for my sake, and if that's the case, then I don't know how much time I have left. I mean,
it's all good. Honestly, I think we did good. I think we covered a lot. Future episodes will probably be a little bit longer, but this is our inaugural one. We're getting our bearings. J-Man didn't get his nap, so we're gonna end this here.
No, I'm good. We could do another topic as long as it's not like what is the meaning of life?
All right. One more final topic. Why is J-Man such a fucking buzzkill? Go.
That's an hour right there.
No, I think we're good. I think we did a good job. I think this is a good. I'm gonna be honest. We're gonna get some insider shit here. This went way better than I thought it was going to. I really kind of expected this to be a little more of a train wreck. But the thing is
way to have high expectancy of your.
No, but the thing is when we talk, this is how it happens. We just talk, and it's totally fine and it's totally organic. And I was just nervous that now that we're trying to add some structure to it, and that everybody's like conscious of the fact that we're being recorded right now. Like I thought that it might psych some people out and this might go a little rougher, but
I think in the end everybody just becomes their self.
Exactly.
Because they're not. That's who they are. You did throw me off though because I did thought we were doing the top 5 must-play games, and when you started with the Xbox, I didn't prepare myself for it. It threw me off a little.
Yeah, well, the reason that I was going to wait on that is because we were supposed to record this with Al. We probably should have put this in the front. Anybody who made it to the end. This is actually probably better because anybody who made it to the end probably enjoyed what they heard and might come back next time. We typically want to do this with a group of 4. It would be me, GP, Steph, Jared, and my buddy Alex. But he wasn't able to make it, unfortunately, right now. But we're going to record again with him later to do our quote-unquote second episode. So he'll be here later, and that's what I was saving that for, because I told him to make the list, and it would have been kind of rude to be like, hey, shit came up for you? Fuck you. We already did that topic, so...
Yeah. You thought there was interruptions this time. Wait till you get 4 of us on here.
I'll kill you all. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening and /or watching. I don't know how I'm gonna get this out, but this is good. If you guys like this, please let us know. This is kind of an experiment. We've always kind of just talked and enjoyed talking, and it's always been one of those things, like we'd say something or have a conversation about something, like, man, I wish that was recorded. So ostensibly, that's just what we're doing, is we're just recording these a little bit of structure. So if you guys like them and want to hear more of them, please let us know that, and send this to people who you might think want to listen to this type of stuff, because we're going to do this as often as we can. No idea how the release schedule is going to be. This is we're still figuring it out, and we only talked about games today, but the next episode, my buddy Al, he's got a doozy of a philosophical question for us, so it should be interesting. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys in the next Grunting Podcast.
Bye.